Now we're going to start the second session, which is all about new age engineering careers. The keynote speaker for this is Mr. Surya Prakash Mohapatra, Global Head Talent Transformation at Wipro, and is a thought leader of international repute in HR and the learning and development space. He has over 20 years of experience in various leadership roles in several leading IT organizations. And yeah, I'd just like to call him up on the stage.
Have always been there at the forefront. But how has the engineering career evolved over time? That's something that we're going to talk about. So you promised that you're going to engage in a dialogue with me. So this is going to be a dialogue where I'm not just going to deliver a talk, but I want to participate in a discussion with you. So, young men and women, or ladies and gentlemen, can you tell me, before the automobile industry, how people used to commute? Friends, I want a dialogue with you. I don't want people just sitting quiet and listening to me. How did people commute before the automobile industry came into the forefront? Good. There's a young lady there who has stood up and
using symbols, signals.
Sorry?
Symbols.
How did people commute before the automobile industry?
Symbols, using any type of special symbols and signals somewhere.
Okay. Anything else?
Sorry.
How else the people are commuting before the automobile cars came in?
Animals.
Animals.
Yeah. Pigeons.
This is an example, isn't it? There were coaches which were drawn by horses. Are you familiar with this? There were coaches which were drawn by horses, and there was a coachman sitting right there. There's a coachman who's sitting there, and there are horses and there are passengers. What happened after the automobile industry revolution? What happened? Can you relate to this? Does it sound familiar? You have to respond to me, yes or no. So what happened? When the automobile industry came to the forefront, what happened? Passengers became drivers. Passengers became drivers. So what happened to the coachman? He disappeared, isn't it? What happened to the coach? Disappeared. What happened to the horses? They're all gone. They're not there. Because today the passengers have become drivers. What's the future of driving, young women and men? What is the future of driving? How would people commute in future? How are people going to commute in future? Have you heard about this? The driverless cars being manufactured by Tesla or by the Google and other companies, the car manufacturers, the best car manufacturers in the world are thinking about making cars, or they've already started produced cars which are driverless. So what does it mean? Driving will disappear, isn't it? The coachman disappeared, the horses disappeared, the coach disappeared. In future, driving will disappear. So what is going to happen to most of the work that we are going to do in future, that we are doing today? What's going to happen to them? So when you grow up, and become a grandfather or a grandmother, and then when you tell your children, grandchildren, that you used to drive a car to office, they will say, are you kidding me? Why you had to drive a car to office? Cars are driverless. So when I moved to Bangalore from Bhubaneswar about 17, 18 years ago, and then I used to go to an STD booth to call my parents after 11 o'clock in the night because the STD rates were at the 1/4 at that point in time. And when I shared this experience with my son, he says, but why you had to go to an STD booth at 11 o'clock in the night to call your parents? Why couldn't you call them from your cell phone? So similarly, your grandchildren will ask you why you had to drive to office. What was the need? Why people had to drive? Because in future, when you today talk about the gramophone record, we don't know what is that unless we see one in the museum. So ladies and gentlemen, in the future, driving will disappear. What will happen to work? What will happen to flying an aeroplane? What will happen to performing a surgery? What will happen to working in a factory, making a product, running an assembly line, building a dam or a building or a huge structure? What will happen to all of this? Will that work disappear? We don't know. We'll have to wait and watch. This is the picture of a factory in China. This factory, about 5 years ago, had 6,000 workers. 6,000 people working for this factory about 5 years ago. Today, this factory has 600 people. 90% of the workforce are not there. They're not required. They don't have to come to the factory anymore because the entire factory's assembly line has been automated. Robots, the robotics, the robots are doing the job that typically the factory workers would have done. Why I'm sharing all this with you? I'm sharing all this with you because I want to talk about technology, how it is changing our lives today, and what implications it has on engineering education, what implications it has on engineering as a career, because I understand many of you are aspiring to become engineers. So it's very important that we understand what does it mean. What's the engineering career of future going to look like? Look at this. About 1960s, about 60 years ago, the mainframe computers came into existence. After that, in about 70s, we had the mini computing machines. The personal computers came sometime in the 1980s. And then came the desktop and internet. After that, we had mobile internet computing. And by 2014, we have the wearables, you have this, the most intelligent smartphones, you have, the small little machines who can really do wonders. How long it has taken for this evolution? About 60 years, isn't it? From mainframe computer to mobile computing, it has taken about 40 to 50 years. Today, can you tell me how many new models of mobile phones come to the market every day? Can anybody make any guess? How many mobile phones hit the market every day? New models. Any guess? 10? Anything? Any other number? There are hundreds. There are hundreds of new models that get launched every day in some part of the globe. We have no idea. So imagine the evolution which took about 40 years, 40 to 50 years, the same evolution today takes place in about a day. in one day, in a single day. The computing speed that we gained over 60 years, the computing power that we gained about 60 years, that evolves every single day. When the whole creation started, before everything else, there was only one thing, that was physics. There were the rocks and the mountains. Then came, after billions and billions of years, came chemistry. Then we saw chemical reactions, water, and then other elements coming in contact, and then we saw chemical reactions, etc. After a few billion years, we saw biology. When the first creation came into this earth. And then then there was the cellular creation, then we had the organisms, and then we had the reptiles, and then we had the birds, and then we had other animals, and then finally we have human beings. But the pace of evolution, the timeline has always shrunk. It has always shrunk. It was many, many billion years from physics to chemistry. From chemistry to biology, it was a long period, but again a shorter duration than what it was from physics to chemistry. The evolution that took millions of years, that evolution today is happening in a single day. The pace of evolution is phenomenal. So these are the characteristics of our times. Our future is unknown. There is innovation everywhere and every day. The workplace has become global and virtual. Change is the only constant thing. We see change every day. New products, new technology, new way of doing business, new business models. Change is the only thing which is constant. Pace of change is incredibly fast. Incredibly fast. New business models emerging almost every day. There are ambiguities all around. Whether I should pursue engineering or medicine. Whether I should go for civil engineering or mechanical engineering. Or I should go for automobile engineering. Or should I go for petroleum engineering? So there are ambiguities all around. What should I pick up? What line of career I should choose? Knowledge is fast becoming obsolete. The knowledge which was powerful is fast becoming obsolete. Because the technology that we studied I studied in my university is not relevant anymore today. What the knowledge that I need about 10 years from now does not exist today. The knowledge is fast becoming obsolete. Technology is transforming and disrupting our lives. So these are the characteristics of our times. In the context of these changes which are happening all around us, how is this impacting the engineering career? What is changing in the engineering field? What are the implications on engineering as a career? What's changing? Engineering as a career are being influenced by emerging trends in technology. There are a lot of new trends and technology that we get to see today. The trends are Internet of Things. Are you familiar with this? Have you heard about Internet of Things? We knew about Internet. Now we are saying Internet of Things, where we are saying the virtual world and the physical world can come together. If your refrigerator at home is running out of vegetables and you are at office, it will send you a message on your smartphone that the vegetables are getting exhausted in your refrigerator. You get a message on your smartphone, then while going back home, you pick up vegetables and then go home. Great example of Internet of Things. So, augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, robotics and automation, big data analytics, physical digital integration, everything on demand. Everything that you want is available on demand. You want to commute, you want to have a cab ride, you have an Ola or Uber app, you just click on that app and then the cab arrives at your doorstep. So today everything is on demand. It's your smartphone with which you can control the world today. So, ladies and gentlemen, how would all of this changing or impacting the engineering profession or engineering career? What are the emerging fields in engineering? So, are you all aspiring engineers? Young students, yes or no? So you're going to write your entrance exam in the next few months, that's what I assume, right? So have you decided which field of engineering you are going to choose? Anybody would like to respond? Mechanical, civil, computer science? You promised that you will engage in a dialogue with me. Where is the dialogue? Anybody would like to volunteer? Which field of engineering that you want to choose? Not decided. I don't know. It depends on what rank I have. Rishabh, have you decided which field of engineering? Not yet. Looks like we are going to have a response.
Computer science. Computer science.
Computer science. Okay. Can you pass it on to your friend next to you?
Civil engineering, sir.
Civil engineering. Fantastic. So when you talk about engineering as a career, the responses that I keep hearing when I go and meet youngsters like you, computer science, electronics and telecommunication, instrumentation, automobile engineering, mechanical engineering, and so on. But young men and women, I would like to tell you that the new age engineering fields are many, many, many more than the traditional ones, which are computer science, mechanical, civil engineering, electronics, electrical, and so on. There are many more. While you are familiar with the most common ones, I'm going to share with you some interesting ones. There's a field called leather technologist. And people, the engineers or the students who aspire for this and complete this leather engineering curriculum, they generally prepare, treat, and finish leather using chemical processes. That becomes the primary job as a leather technologist. And there is a BTech in leather technology which is available, and Anna University, Chennai offers it. And there could be other institutions in the country or abroad who might be offering this as well. There's another interesting one, nuclear engineer. Nuclear engineers are the ones who design, construct, and operate nuclear power plants. And typically, you are expected to do a BTech and then an MTech in nuclear science. IIT Kanpur and JNTU Kakinada in Andhra Pradesh itself offers this nuclear engineering course. Petroleum engineer. The petroleum engineers actually, they go all over the world, all over the seas, the oceans, and they look for reservoirs of oil, understand the geologic formation, determine the drilling methods, and actually monitor drilling. It's a very, very exciting career to choose. And the one that's offered here is an Indian School of Mines, Dhanbad. So you can pick up a BTech followed by an M.Tech, and then used to do a PhD to become really proficient in the petroleum engineering field. Naval engineering, that's another interesting engineering profession. These engineers usually design and develop and repair watercrafts, hydrofoils, and oil drilling platforms. So they go right into the sea, and they work on this most sophisticated equipment and machines, and they're actually a very unique breed of engineers. You don't find them in plenty. You have to do a B.Tech in naval architecture and ocean engineering. IIT Madras, IIT Kharagpur provide this. Very, very different from the traditional ones, isn't it? Computer science, electronics, electrical, and we are talking about new age engineering. New age engineering fields is what you are discussing today. While the list can go on, there are some more emerging trends and fields in the engineering field. So while we traditionally believe that we become a computer engineer to write programs or to do coding, or become a civil engineering to construct buildings, etc., or you become automobile engineering to work for an automobile manufacturing company, there are many other engineering branches. So you can be an airport designer. So there are airports today which are very, very different from normal buildings and dams, etc. So there are people who actually are specialized in airport designing. So their job is to design an entire airport, and then they're the ones who actually work on the design, on building, renovation, and maintenance of airports. Energy conservation specialist. They're the ones who actually look at what are the different energy sources, what are the different ways energy gets lost, and they bring in best practices in energy conservation, and they're called energy conservation specialist. Green architect are the ones who really build large landscapes, and then they build landscapes which are ecologically sound, environmentally sound, and that's a specialized field today. Air traffic controller is another field. You can usually, somebody who is an B.Tech in electronics, telecommunication, or a master M.Tech in electronics, telecommunication, can go for a test which is run by the airports authorities of India. And if you pass the test, which includes a voice test and also includes an aptitude test and other assessments, and you can become an air traffic control officer. And people who are in that profession, actually, they monitor aeroplanes, and then they help them kind of take off and land and kind of fly safely. They're the ones who actually control and help in the navigation of the aeroplanes. Landscape architect, again, the ones who actually design large landscapes, large buildings and shopping malls, and then, in a vast expanse of area which involves multiple buildings, structures, etc. And there are a specialized field where you have landscape architects. Mobile app developer are a little different from the traditional programmers, because they are the ones who actually write apps. They can develop apps virtually for your email, for your chat, for different applications. And that's, again, another field of engineering which is in demand. So these are various new age engineering fields that we can talk about. Any questions so far before we move on? Okay. So when you're choosing an engine, yes. Yes, you have a question?
Actually, my name is Sai Chandu. I want to know about mining engineering.
What exactly you want to know about mining engineering?
What subjects are involved?
So what are the prospects in mining engineering?
Yes.
Okay, please sit down. So we have there's a famous institute called the Indian School of Mines, Dhanbad, which offers, yes, so mining engineering. So there are multiple fields of study in the mining engineering. You can choose multiple specialization as well. So typically, if you want to choose that, you don't have, this is not available mostly in traditional engineering colleges. So people who actually work in mines like the coal mine or, other mines, etc., they are typically, NTPC or, the Indian Oil Corporation, etc. They're the ones who choose people with the mines engineering. And you can after your +2, you can write the test with Indian School of Mines. We also need to find out which are the other engineering institutions in the country providing mines engineering. It has a good future because it's very different from other conventional engineering programs. The only difference would be, while a conventional engineering like mechanical, computer science, etc., will help you find jobs in a IT company or in a company in a metro, etc. But if you are pursuing your engineering in mining, then you will have to be prepared to work in remote locations, far away from the cities and the metros and then the big cities or towns in our country. You will have to be prepared to work in remote areas. Either you work in mines, etc., or you work in far away places where your products, the products of this company like Indian Oil Corporation, you probably manage a distribution network across different remote locations and so on. If you get into a good public sector company, the Navratnas or the Maharatnas, or if you get into a good reputed private organization, you would have good salary, good pay, comfortable future. But I think in the initial years of your career, or for many years in your career, you should be prepared to work in remote locations. I hope I answered your question. Okay. Any other question? All right, so we'll move on. This is the engineering education of yesterday and today, and what's going to be today and tomorrow. And why I'm sharing this with you, because this will help you decide the right engineering institution that you want to get into. This is going to be a determining factor which will help you decide which educational institution that you should choose when you are deciding to join an engineering college or institution. So the engineering education yesterday and today is largely instructor-led. They are centered around an instructor, a professor who walks into the class and drives your class. But the future is going to be student-centered. It's going to be an educational curriculum where you are going to drive the curriculum. You are going to be at the center. You are going to actively participate and engage in the curriculum process. This is going to be, today it is more prescription and outcome based. And tomorrow it's going to be more beyond the learning outcome based. It's going to be much more than a prescriptive learning method. Is going to be beyond that. Today it's individual teaching.